Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Magic Towers Resort. So again, it's been a little while, and if you see my community post, you'll probably know why. Once again, I am graduating this very month, so that's kind of where my focus is right now, and what I'd like to focus on for the time being. But at the end of the month, I should have been graduated, and that means that I'll just be looking for a job, and I'll probably have some time again to make regular YouTube videos again. So sorry for the very long wait until the next video, but hopefully this video will kind of, fill the gap again, and hopefully we can get back into the swing of things real soon again. So before I get started, I just got a new Patreon, and this is the very first Platinum Pass holder that I got, and for that I'd like to thank Veld. Now, I know Veld in real life. He does a lot of stuff with Discord bots and things like that. So you might have seen his name before on things like that. And he pledged with the $15 tier on Patreon, which also gets you an actual employee inside of the park that is renamed to you. So before we get started with the time lapse, let's actually find an employee and rename it to Veld. Let's see. Well, I know Veld likes to program things, so I'll probably go with a mechanic. That's probably the most fitting thing. Let's see. Who do we have? I'll take him. He's working in the Arctic area, it looks like. And he apparently can't find the entrance to the mine train coaster. That's a bit of a problem. I'll just rename him to Veld. So there you go. Thank you so much, Veld, for the pledge. And if you are interested in getting a Patreon tier yourself as well, make sure to check out my Patreon page. And with that, you get access to exclusive trip reports. You can get blueprints for scenery and rides and a lot of other stuff. So make sure to check it out. And also check out my Discord, because I very recently started a Discord server. I first announced that in my previous video. But if you haven't seen that already, there is a Discord. You can find the link in the description down below. And it's really scaling up nicely right now. At this time, we are at 78 members, so it's growing, and hopefully we can make that a really fun place to talk about theme parks and theme park games and realism and backstage stuff and things like that. Really just the stuff that we talk about in these episodes as well. Anyway, so that's it for all the talk for right now. Let's jump into the time lapse, because it's time for Magic Towers Resort. In the last episode, we were working on the hotel for Magic Towers Resort. So this will be the more luxurious hotel. It will be a little bit more expensive, but it will have a pretty good view of the park. It has some great amenities. And a pretty good position compared to the park as well. So that's the hotel that we're building right now. So in the last episode we did most of the general structure for the hotel. I do plan to expand it just a little bit more on the other side of the entrance, or the lobby I should say. But for now, we just have to get started creating some of the extra details, because we have all the rooms in right now. But of course, even a hotel needs a backstage area, so that's what we're working on in this very episode. Now, I'm not very experienced with hotels and how the backstage areas and things like that works. So for this, I looked at the Disney's Beach Club resort at Disney World. It's right next to the Epcot theme park, and it is also one of the more expensive hotels. And what's very interesting is they have like two hotels right next to each other that basically share the same backstage area. It's a pretty large areas where the trucks can come in to bring deliveries for foods and things like that, but also where trucks can probably pick up things like the laundry and things like that, so it can be brought to a larger facility, is how I guess it works at those hotels. Usually you have some kind of company that just takes care of the laundry and does that at their own facility. They just come and pick it up. So you just need to make sure that you have a distribution center for that. So that's kind of what this whole thing is gonna act as well. So you can see me building some machines there that maybe it's for like ventilation or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I saw it at the Beach Club Resort, and it adds some extra movement to the whole thing. which is pretty nice. Now, these hotel rooms, if you are gonna be looking down, you will be able to see the backstage area. And usually what you see at some of those more luxurious hotels is that on the side of the backstage area there may not be rooms at all. So they very cleverly try to dress that up so that they don't actually need hotel rooms on those sides. In this case, I decided I will just lower it down into the ground a little bit. Just to make sure that the guests sitting on their balcony there wouldn't be looking straight into the backstage area. And I'll be dressing it up with a lot of trees and things like that, just to hopefully make it seem from those hotel rooms like you're not actually right above the backstage area for the hotel. So I'm interested in how that would actually look from the hotel rooms, because I'm just trying to implement some of these ideas in an isometric view. So that's probably not the... so there are probably some sightlines that I didn't really think about. But I think overall I do a pretty good job of trying to hide it. So you can see me placing that roof there just to bring it up a little bit more, making it harder to actually see what's right behind it. I'm dressing up the ceiling there with some plants and things like that, just to kind of bring a bit more depth to the vegetation, to not make it seem like a concrete jungle. And I'm outlining the whole thing with plants as well, because both from the highway, I don't want people to be able to see the backstage area, but also from the hotel rooms, that will just kind of act like the border for your view into the rest of the resort, basically. So I think all in all that works pretty well. So tricks and things like that, and employees would be able to come in here and park their car and get working right from this location. And I think the most important thing that really helped with this is actually sinking it into the ground one level. So I think that just helps to really hide it a bit better than it would have been able to otherwise. Now I'm gonna start working on the inner garden here right next to the lobby. So this is just going to be an area where guests might be able to relax for a little bit if they're staying in their hotel, want to have a coffee outside and things like that. I initially wanted to make it a bit more like a park that is a bit more random, have some natural paths and things like that. But I didn't really have the space to make that very convincing, so instead I went with a more symmetrical design, a bit more of a neater design, just to reflect on that luxurious idea that I'm going for with this hotel. And also because it's a bit more modern, I think that fits pretty well. This hotel would be a bit more nature themed, but I think it's nice to have a more maintained garden in here, where guests will be able to come and spend their morning or things like that, or their nights. So I think that helps to kind of, give some reflect the more modern looking facade of the hotel itself. Now, of course, I want guests to be able to walk around in here as well. So I'm just going to make sure that I have paths that are actually leading into the hotel, where I can then place some shops and maybe some rides as well, just to make it a bit more attractive for guests to actually come here. And you'll see by the end of the video, it will be absolutely full with guests, which is probably not very realistic for a hotel. But at least it gives some life to the area, and it makes it look like it's actually functional. For that though, I had to make sure that guests wouldn't be able to walk on the road. I made that mistake with the parking lot. So I just made sure to place a little border there, then place the paths again, and then if I remove those little walls, the path will not actually be connected, and it will prevent guests from actually walking on there. Now to get the guests to this location, I'm just building some underground paths. A lot of areas in my park are connected by an underground path, because otherwise guests will get stuck at certain locations. And with zero clearance, it's pretty easy to just make a path that goes into the ground, and you can pop them up anywhere you like. And that way you just make sure that the peeps actually don't get lost. And it's very effective, because not a lot of people get lost in my park. And if they do, it's obviously, well, not obviously, but it's usually in one certain area, and just adding another underground path just completely fixes the issue. So if you're having problems with the guest AI, make sure to have underground paths that actually lead usually from some point where it's hard to reach the exit, right straight back to the exit, because that's usually the main problem when guests get lost, is that they wouldn't be able to get to the exit when they want to. That's where you get the complaints. So do make sure to try and work with that in mind, and it will really help to make it a lot more functional. Now, next up we need a parking lot. This parking lot is going to be a little bit smaller than probably it would be for this hotel. I guess usually you would probably want at least one parking spot for every single guest that's going to be able to stay in your room, in your hotel, I mean. So probably like one parking spot per hotel room plus a little bit extra. I don't think that's quite the number of spots that we have going on over here. But I guess the idea of a parking lot, and I don't want to spend too much space on actually trying to build these parking lots to a realistic capacity, basically. So I'm really going off of some Disney hotels here. They have some pretty nice parking spots that are a bit more organically shaped and things like that. And I really like that idea, so I'm trying to mirror that with this parking lot as well. Because it fits with the theme of the entire resort pretty well, I think. I think it's Coronado Springs that has kind of a parking lot that looks a little bit like this. It's pretty basic, but it gets the job done and it looks like a parking lot, and it's relatively large, so I guess we'll be able to park there without too much trouble. So I think that it gets the job done pretty well. Now, of course, I do want to place some lights here as well, just to make sure that the parking lot will be lit up, just to make it a bit nicer looking. Now, in the last episode, I talked about how I didn't have a lot of experience with hotels. Now, I have to admit that since the last episode of Magic Towers Resort in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, I did actually get to go to a few more hotels. First of all, I went on a small vacation in Slovenia, and we happened to get upgraded to a 4-star hotel there, because the hotel that we were initially going to happened to be closed due to Corona. And I also went to Newport Bay at Disneyland Paris. Before I get into too much of a rant, I'm just really quickly gonna say it's very outdated. Just like the Sequoia Lodge that I've talked about before, it's not worth the price right now. Disney really needs to update those hotels, because it's currently you're not getting your money's worth. Cold showers, not enough electrical plugs, things like that. It's really bad. But we did get to go to that hotel on the very first day, on the opening day, basically. And in the middle of the day, we were like, it's kind of hot right now, let's actually go swimming. Because we were kind of tired of the park, and there were no queues anyways. There was nobody in the park. So we figured, why not actually go swimming to cool down a little bit. So we went swimming at the Newport Bay Hotel Club, and well, turns out we were the very first to go into the swimming pool. That was around noon, and eventually the manager, some kind of manager of the hotel, came to us to tell us that we were indeed the very first to go into the pool there, which was pretty crazy, because they were basically like opening doors and things for us based on where we were going in the pool. So if we went outside, like all the cast members came outside as well, because we were literally the only ones, which is a pretty unreal experience. But speaking of pools, we're going to be building a pool for this hotel as well, of course. And what I really like about the Disney hotels is that the moderate hotels, I think, or at least starting at the moderate hotels, you usually get a swimming pool with a slide or multiple slides. And I really like these slides because they are usually very well themed inside of the theming of the entire hotel. So for this hotel, again, I really wanted to get a slide in there that was just, going through some rocks and things like that. So I would absolutely love that as a kid myself, probably. I probably still would, let's be honest. But so that's kind of what I'm trying to go for with this swimming pool. So I'm just making an organic shape with the swimming pool and then cutting out a little bit for the actual slide that I'll be placing there. So that's going to be pretty neat. And you'll see how I get to that in a second. First of all, I'm creating some letters inside of the swimming pool, and I used the gravestones for that, which gives me flashbacks to The Sims, basically. But don't worry about that; they're just meant to look like letters, and I guess it gets the job done. It's pretty simple. It's a nice little extra detail. So for slides to work like actual water slides, you can go with two options. You can either go with there is one ride mode where the vehicle will be starting at the bottom and then reversing backwards up the ride again, letting guests in and then sliding down and then reversing again. which means that you don't need any hidden track to get the vehicle back to the start. Another technique is to actually create some hidden track that leads the guest from the end of the ride back to the start again, and you can probably place the exit of the ride somewhere underground, and that's kind of what I'm going for in this instance eventually, because I wanted to make sure that the capacity would be a little bit higher than it would be with the reversing method. So those are your true options if you're going for a swimming pool. Now this is really just a little teaser for what's probably to come when I eventually build a water park, because I would really like to build a water park as like an extra addition to the entire resort with a ton of slides and things like that. Really going to be based on some of the most well-themed water parks in the world. And here I'm thinking about Rolantica at Europa Park, the 2 water parks that they have at Walt Disney World, and what is it called again? Volcano Bay at Universal Studios Orlando. Those are some of the most well-themed water parks I think in the world right now. So that's kind of what I want to go for as well. If you haven't seen those before, or you're not really into water parks and things like that, definitely check them out, because they are very interesting. Because they basically bring the entire water park concept, the entire theme park concept like we know from Disney parks or very well-themed parks, things like Toverland and things like that. They bring those concepts to a water park and apply them to that. So you have storytelling and things like that inside of a water park. And it just makes for a really amazing experience overall, and it looks super neat as well. So that definitely inspired me to try to do some more slides. But before we get into the water park, we're first going to do a few hotels, which will probably all have some slides that we can work on as well. So I'm again kind of reflecting the nature theme here, so there's not really much of a structure to it. It's mostly just a slide that kind of goes through the rocks and kind of, through some of the caves. Maybe there's something to see inside of one of the caves as well. It would be pretty neat, I guess. But that's kind of what we're going for with this slide. So it's not too special. It's a pretty small slide, but I guess the kids would really love that. And, you don't need a ton of slides just to entertain some of the kids with their parents spending maybe a few hours here on a day. Or if we're speaking of the parents, they'll probably want to relax right next to the pool. So for that, we're going to be building some... basically some seats, some beds that guests can lay on. Now I find the Virginia rail track to work pretty well for this. There are probably some other options that you can go for. I don't know why, but I just like this one. It's a bit large compared to the Peep, so there may be some better options for it, but I think it gets the idea across pretty well, so it gets the job done. And it's pretty easy to place around, and has some cool textures to it, because the Virginia rail has these sides that are kind of like wavy, and I kind of like that as an extra detail. So I think for that it works really well. And with that, we have basically created a pool for this hotel, which still doesn't have a name, I believe. I can't really remember. But we'll probably get to that later, because this hotel is not finished yet. We will be having to expand it a bit further. Gonna be having to place a lot more vegetation around it. Also some gardens where the guests can relax if they want to, and connect that up back to the pool. Again, some vegetation around it. Probably a restaurant for the hotel as well, which I think will probably be placed at like the back of the lobby. I had some cool ideas for like a circular panoramic view restaurant, which I think will be a really cool idea. So I'll try to work on that probably in the next episode, which I think will come in September. So don't expect too many videos this month anymore because of the graduation, just so you know. But after that, hopefully I can get back into the swing of things and get a lot of videos out there. Anyway, so that's about it for this video. If you like this video and would like to chat with me or other members who view these videos, make sure to check out my Discord. If you want to support me in any way possible, just check out my Patreon for some exclusive content and some insights and thoughts on theme parks in real life. That's about it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like this video if you liked it. It helps other people discover these videos as well. And subscribe as well. Anyways, that's about it. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.